Hello and welcome to my next draft series. This is the second time I have done a draft series on this channel. A while back, I think, summer of 2024, I did a Uber's UU draft series, and it was pretty fun. I think it's cool to share draft stuff because you get the most interesting building, really, of any form X. Everything's so hyper specific, and yeah, draft is just a fun format, and I like to share what I do. So we're going to be going over the team intro today, showing you each Pokemon that I drafted, the draft rules, all that stuff. And then starting, sometime next week, I'm going to be doing about 1 week at a time. So we'll have 8 weeks for regular season. If I make the postseason, then there will be more videos after that. And yeah, you can expect about one of these per week. So this will be a series that will be spanning, a couple months, 2-3 months. And yeah, let's get into the draft rules first. So this is the Professional Draft League. I will link the Discord server in the description of this video if you're interested in joining. And the draft rules are as follows. We have 16 teams in our division, the Johto division. And each team gets to draft up to 110 points worth of Pokemon, 9 to 11 Pokemon each. And I'm not going to go over the specifics of like point totals and stuff, but basically high value Pokemon like Dragapult are going to be worth a lot of points. Low value Pokemon like, I don't know, ZU Pokemon, Overqwil, things like that are being worth less points. That's the crux of it. Also important is that Terra Captains are a thing. Terra Captains are Pokemon that can specifically terrestrialize. Generally, Pokemon aren't allowed to terrestrialize unless they are a Terra Captain. And Terra Captains are restricted to only the weaker Pokemon, meaning you can't have things like Terra Dragapult, but instead you gotta deal with things like, I don't know, Terra Crabominable, which keeps Terra, I think, a lot more interesting, because you don't have to worry about every Pokemon popping Terra, and it could be any type, because also the Terra Captains are terrestrializing into only one of 3 types. One of those types has to be a Stab type, and the other 2 types are unrestricted. So if you have, say, a Crabominable, one of them has to be Ice or Fighting. Other 2 Terra types can be whatever you want. And so I think this rule is interesting. It keeps Terra very manageable, but still interesting. You still have to consider what Terra type they might be. You don't know what Terra type they're going to be, but you know what they can be. It's a lot of restriction, but I think it keeps things manageable. So I really like that rule. And for the regular season, it's going to be 8 games, 8 weeks, 8 games, and the top half makes playoffs. And also interesting is that there's the divisional playoffs first, which are used for seeding for a greater playoff. See, Johto division is just one of like, I don't know, I think 8 divisions, 8 or 9. There's a lot of people in this draft. It's a big server. It's a lot of people playing. And so like the top 4 of each division enter into a server-wide playoff of like 64 teams or something. Maybe not 64, but you get the point. A lot of teams, but I'll get to that when it's relevant. And now we're going to get into the actual draft itself. Starting off, pick 1, we got Chi-Yu. You might be surprised to see Chi-Yu is allowed, but interesting thing about draft is that there's actually a lot of lower-powered Uber Pokemon that are allowed. So Chi-Yu, Palafin, things like that are allowed in this draft league. And so there's some high-powered stuff, but the fact that that people have these high-powered things, keep them manageable. So I have a Chi-Yu, so if you have, say, something like an Incineroar, you can prep to deal with that Chi-Yu. Regardless, though, when I saw the Chi-Yu was legal, I wanted to go for it very quickly, because, I mean, this thing is, we all know Chi-Yu, right? We've seen the calcs. This thing is ridiculously powerful. Could have a better speed tier, to be honest, but if I get Chi-Yu in position, it's probably killing something. It is nearly unstoppable on the special side. And yeah, also another quick note on the draft is a snake format, meaning pick 1. First one who gets first pick will then go down the line to pick 16. Then pick 16 will get 2 picks in a row. Pick 15 will then get theirs. And it just goes back and forth. So Chi-Yu, my first, I was like number 4 out of 16 or something. And yeah, this is the guy I want to start building around. Not and not a terribly interesting Pokemon to build around per se. There's not a lot of variety to choose. Basically, just stabs and kill. It's just clicking buttons. But I just wanted the funny fish. What can I say? On to pick 2, we have Landers there in. I was very surprised to see Lando was still left. This is like over 25 Pokemon had been picked at this point, I think. And Landers Therian was still around, so I had to go for it. I mean, what is there to say about Lando? He's got the incredible typing, so this gives me an electric immunity and a ground immunity in one. Incredible attack stat, of course. Good speed stat. Not great, but good. Pretty good mixed bulk. And was intimidated, of course, that physical bulk is even harder to deal with. And also a lot of great utility, even though it's not what it was in Gen 8. Still with things like Stealth Rocks, U-Turn, Taunt. Even gets Nasty Plot, that's a new thing in Gen 9. So even with 105 special attack, Nasty Plot is pretty potent still. Also Sword Stance. Got goofier things like Smackdown and Gravity. Landers Therian, incredibly valuable Pokemon. Really hard to deal with in the team builder because it just handles so many things. It's a great Pokemon. Had to go for it. On to pick 3. So Landers, great physical Pokemon, or physical check, to physical attackers. I want to go for something that could really check special attackers really well. And Empoleon was my choice here. Now, you might look at Empoleon stats and think, I mean, 84 HP, 101 special defense. It's like fine, but it's not great. But the water steel typing does serious lifting for Empoleon. It's really good defensive typing. And, I mean, yeah, this thing just has a ton of resistances. Obviously, bulky water type's good for any draft team. You kind of need one. Steel type, obviously, incredible. And Empoleon has a lot of good disruption tools. Things like Yawn, Knockoff. It also gets Stealth Rocks. That's another potential. It gets Roost for longevity. And also gets Flip Turn, which is honestly probably the best thing Empoleon has. Because of that pretty low speed stat, this thing's pretty reliable at pivoting into big threats. Taking a special hit, stomaching pretty well, pivoting out. Or doing things like Knockoff. Also have goofier options like, Rain Dance. I can just be a straight up attacker too, which, 111 special attack is nothing to scoff at. So, even an unboosted Surf is going to hurt. And, yeah, this is kind of another basic building block for a team. So, bulky water, steel type, pivoting, longevity. Point has a lot of great tools. And now into the mascot pick 4, Overqwil. This has got to be a theme among Pokemon I like to draft, is that they have a lot of different options, which I think is really fun to build with, and it makes my enemies, or my opponents, have a harder time in prepping for what I might do. But Overqwil, grounded poison type, really important for any team, so you don't have to get destroyed by T-Spikes, because otherwise T-Spikes can really ruin you. Dark type as well to deal with any Psychic spam. And Overqwil has a pretty good stat spread, honestly. Decent speed, good attack, and the bulk isn't incredible, but it's pretty serviceable, especially if it's Intimidate to back it up. But it's not, just a bulky Intimidate guy. It can also do Swift Swim, so it can pair really well with Empoleon, like I was saying, with Rain Dance, Flip Turn, get into this guy with Swift Swim, get up Sword Stance, and you could be doing some serious work. Poison Point also an option just for more disruption, and Overqwil also has a lot of really good utility options, which is why people will even draft Hisuian Quillfish pretty often, because it has a lot of great things like Taunt, Toxic Spikes, Toxic, Spikes, a lot of good hazard options with this guy, even goofy things like Destiny Bond. Yeah, Overqwil, a personal favorite of mine. I think he's just a fun design. It's the coveted Dark Poison typing, like I said, which is, I can't really overstate how good of a typing that is. It's like honestly a top 5 typing, dual typing in the game. I'm not joking. This thing is really good with typing. And yeah, it has a lot of really good tools. Can be a sweeper, could be utility. And that's why I picked it up. Okay, back into a more simple Pokemon. We have Gallade. Technically has 3 abilities, but Steadfast and Justified basically don't matter when it has Sharpness nowadays. Yeah, this thing's deal is Click Sacred Sword, Psycho Cut, and its various Sharpness boosted covered options. Other things like Triple Axle 2 are great. Yeah, Gallade can kind of be an answer to almost anything I want to be, because it has such a deep move pool, one of the deepest move pools in the game. Granted, a lot of that special and stuff, but has a lot of coverage options. Of course, the attack stack is really good. Speed stat is middling. Bulk is not good. Special defense again to take a hit or two. The physical bulk is obviously pretty bad. But yeah, main things I want this thing to do are like a focus sash agility idea, so you can try to go for a sweep, or even a life orb agility if I get a good setup. Or I can go for something just like basic choice scarf, good speed control, and even just a choice scarf. This thing hits so hard. Like Sacred Sword, 135 base power after the sharpness boost. Doesn't even make contact. It's just such a good Pokemon with sharpness. I'm really glad they gave Glade sharpness. It made it way more viable than it was before. And it makes it a lot more unique. Instead of just being another fighting type who wants to click close combat all the time, it has more of a interesting niche and a really strong role as any physical attacker. Hard to deal with this guy defensively, and that's why I picked him up. Another good physical attacker. And pick 6 here might look a little odd, Araquanid. And I think, I already have a bulky water type. But if you think about it, this gives me, secondly, another good special defense Pokemon, which, my team is a little weak on. Things like Overqwil, not good specially defensive. Glade doesn't really count because should not be defensive ever. And Lando really doesn't want to be taking on that role. I mean, can only do so much at a time. So I picked up Araquanid. And I really like Araquanid here with Empoleon because they really cover each other's weaknesses really well. Except for that electric weakness. Think about it. Araquanid can resist almost everything that Empoleon has a hard time with. It's ground, fighting, it's neutral to fire. Araquanid resists all of that, which thanks to Water Bubble, resists the fire as well. Also gives me Water Absorb, which is really a good option to have when you have things like Palafin, any Flip Turner. Can't grab free momentum when you have Water Absorb. And of course, this gives me Sticky Webs, which is really makes you think in the team builder, like, okay, if they get Sticky Web down, like, what do I do? Do I have to have, some sort of hazard removal? A bit of a mind game, what's the Sticky Web? Just being an option, because if Araquanid shows up, he's got to put down that web. And of course, not an entirely passive Pokemon either. I mean, 70 base power, or 70 base attack, not great, but what's that Water Bubble? Things like Liquidation just hit so hard. So you can't really just, set up on this guy for free most of the time. So yeah, good synergy with Empoleon, another special defensive option. Give me Sticky Web. And he's also just funny, look at him. He's just great. He's just a little water spider guy. Alright, on to pick 7. Whimsicott. Whimsicott, another great utility Pokemon. Also give me a good speed tier. The main thing here, 2 main things really. Fairy typing, so dragon types can't just click Draco Meteor for free on me. And more importantly, Prankster, which can really just... Prankster Encore can ruin anything setup-wise, and that's what makes it so strong. I mean, you cannot click things like Dragon Dance and Shell Smash for free when Whimsicott is in the game at all. So if I get the switch in, you've wasted your time. You're getting Encored. You're going to hell. Also, another interesting option is to get Chlorophyll, and it does get Growth. So its special attack is quite bad, honestly. 77 is not good. It gets very little coverage. But Chlorophyll is just another option. Infiltrator, not really mattering when you're working with that much special attack. And so yeah, mainly a Prankster guy. Chlorophyll is a fun option if I choose to go down that route. Say if I play a Sun team. But yeah, another just Pokemon that synergizes really well with the team typing-wise. Gives me good immunities. Spore immunity as well. It's always nice to have. And yeah, great Disruptor. And really, the linchpin in my idea of going for as much variety and toolset as possible is who other than the king of variety himself, Smeargle. Obviously can learn almost any move in the game. And also my first Terra Captain has to be Terra Normal, of course. Terra Ghost to really synergize with that. So they want to click a Ghost move or a fighting move. You have to think about it a little bit. So I might just Terrasilize out of that, become something, and start doing Smeargle things, which can be literally anything. And dark typing, that's for a little strategy that I will get to. What is it? I think week 2 is when I will reveal why I have Terra Dark, but it's for a fun reason. And also, like, I didn't really have another Terra type I really needed on this guy. But yeah, Smeargle, incredibly fun to deal with. Or not incredibly fun to deal with, incredibly fun to build with. Because this can really... If there's anything I, like, need on my team, I really need something in particular, Smeargle can do it. You know, I can do hazards, things like Stone Axe, Sticky Web, Taunt, Spore, all that classic stuff. Or I can go goofier. Things like Shell Smash and Technician work really well together. Because you can now run Population Bomb on Smeargle. Be like a mini Mousehold. But if Mousehold could Shell Smash. And even with the 20 base attack, that strategy is still actually quite powerful. Especially with Terra Normal as an option. And any coverage I want to. But yeah, Smeargle, just a really fun Pokemon in draft. And when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, I gotta do this. This will just be fun. Alright, on to Fortress. Much more straightforward Pokemon here. 2 things, really. Has good typing, which is always nice. Bug Steel is a great typing combo. Has great physical defense. So this could be a really good check to anything. Obviously, it doesn't have great longevity, but it can check things, which is all you really need in a draft team. And of course, the main role it's here to do is hazard control, right? Rapid Spin. It can lay down like almost every hazard in the game. T-Spike, Spikes, Stealth Rock. And it gets a slow pivot with Volt Switch, which is actually really nice for Fortress. Because it's going to be underspeeding almost everything. Which is just very helpful for a guy like this. So I can pivot out, have good momentum, hazard control. Yeah, Fortress is just a decent Pokemon. And also, at this point, I kind of remember, like, oh yeah, I should probably have hazard control. And I think it's pretty important in Gen 9 because there's just so many things that can put down spikes and ruin your day. So yeah, Rapid Spinner, Hazard Layer, I have a lot of Hazard Layers, which I like. You don't know what exactly is going to put down what. And Fortress really just adds to that. Now, on to my second of 2 Terra Captains. My last one here is Drifblim. Drifblim is an incredible Terra Captain. It's honestly criminal that it was still available at this point. Terra types of Ghost, Fairy, and Electric. So you can get that strong Shadow Ball, synergize, get the Ghost Fairy kind of dual stab with Shadow Ball, Terra Blast Fairy. Obviously, we've seen what that can do with Flutter Mane. And Terra Electric is nice too, because it gives me just kind of something different. And Drifblim does get Thunderbolt, so I don't have to rely on Terra Blast with that. But obviously the crux here is Unburden. Unburden is really Drifblim's bread and butter. What makes it so difficult to deal with? Because the 150 HP makes it pretty reliable at getting that up. I mean, obviously the defense and special defense are pretty bad, but when even weighed out with the HP, it kind of evens out to be decent bulk. Especially if you invest in something like defense or special defense, it can be pretty bulky on either side. And also Strength Sap is big for Drifblim. Makes it almost impossible for some physical attackers to beat it at all. And gets Calm Mind to boost. Also gets a lot of interesting utility options if I choose to go down that route. It gets Will-O-Wisp, Toxic. Or it doesn't get Toxic, I think. But Will-O-Wisp, Thunder Wave. Even things like Memento, Destiny Bond, always options. But yeah, Drifblim's main role here is Terra Captain, Unburden, Sweeper. And it is really deadly as a Terra Captain. If you ever are in a draft and you can pick up Drifblim as a Terra Captain, I 100% recommend it. This thing is really deadly. And on to our final pick, which had only 2 points left, is Rampardos. This is not going to come out much. It's not a good Pokemon. It's just funny. It cost me 2 out of my 110 points. Because, like, this thing's not valuable. But, if I'm feeling crazy, it is a possibility. And, you know, someone might have to have in the back of their mind thinking, what if they do Head Smash? Head Smash, Choice Scarf, or even Trick Room. Not a whole lot to say about Rampardos. It's not super important, but it's just kind of a funny tool to have in the back, and I had no reason not to pick it up the way my points were lined up. And what's pick 11? That is the entirety of the Overqwil team. And yeah, that sums up the team. I think it has a lot of fun variety, a lot of fun options, different modes you can go down, like rain, balance, hyper offense, miracle, can do whatever I wanted to do. And yeah, basically my ethos was have a lot of different options and give me a lot of flexibility, which in turn makes it hard to prep for my team because you have kind of zero idea what's going to show up when you see this team. There's so many different potential guys who could show up and do different things that I feel like it's a difficult team to prepare for. And with that, I'm going to call for the video. We will be seeing week 1 recap, probably within a week here. And I hope you choose to stick around for it. This is a fun team which has a lot of fun moments, fun replays, and I hope to see you there. If you're still with me, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.